Good evening and welcome to today's special council meeting. We do apologize to the residents who tuned in right at 5 p.m. We had a technical challenge and are just getting up and running, so we do appreciate you being patient while we got the situation resolved. Do want to welcome our town attorney, Ms. Sue Ellen Ferguson, to tonight's meeting. Thank you for joining us and being here to be a resource. And then do we need to, because I don't see it on here, amend the agenda to add a closed session before we begin? Or no? So is there a motion to add to the agenda a closed session? Moved by Councilmember Rout. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilmember Lundy. Any discussion? Yep, and the topic for the closed session is contractual, I believe. I don't want to say too much. I was just trying to leave it.
Yes, contractual and human resources.
So it's personnel instead?
A contractual arrangement.
I'll put personnel
yes.
in there too.
Okay, and personnel. So that was, for those who couldn't hear, to have a closed session to discuss a contractual agreement / HR, as well as a personnel matter. And hearing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. So we'll begin with the open meeting. Our two financial business items today are the purchasing policies and the CARES Act funding. So Town Administrator, Acting Administrator Tonelli, I'll turn it over to you to get us started.
Sure. In your packet, I have two policies that were requested. It took me a little while to find. The first is the original personnel policy. Purchasing policy. And this was done under the Sustainable Green Purchases, and it's dated January 14th, 2013, and I have it up on screen behind me, just so you can see what I'm talking about. And this, we can just go through. This was adopted, go back up, January 14th, 2013, okay. It was drafted in 2012. And what this gets into is on page 3, competitive bidding, subsection 19-3, number A, all contracts, except as otherwise provided in this chapter, contracts for the purchase by the town supplies or services involving $10,000 or more shall be awarded at a regularly scheduled council meeting to the lowest responsible bidder meeting specifications. And again, section B is where for bids over in excess of $100,000 got to be submitted by a sealed bid. And it goes into the qualifications of the bidder. And then we have exceptions to competitive bidding, section 19-4. You can see some of the exceptions there. Exceptions involve purchase or contracts less than $10,000. Purchase of supplies or services are only available, the single source purchasing. Services with expertise can be approved by the mayor and council. I'm summarizing all these. And then exception is emergency approval with 3 council members under number 5. Number 6, purchases based on federal, state, county, or municipal contracts with best pricing established by legal or competitive process. So it isn't there. Then going down, we have multi-year contracts, and I don't have to go line by line. Let's see, multi-year contracts. Any multi-year contract that looks like it exceeds the $10,000 or exceeds more than one and or exceeds 1 year needs to have council approval as well. And this was amended, I'm sorry, and this was added to the town code. So I sent this out last week. There's some questions about purchasing practices or policies, and this was updated in April 2016. It looks like this: the Green Purchasing and Sustainable Procurement Policy. And what this does is it's supposed to look towards environmentally preferred purchasing or green procurement options, according to the purchasing policy. That includes electronics equipment that have, that meet minimum environmental criteria, the purchase of recycling and recycled materials, green building practices, and commodities that don't have toxins or pollutants. Why is all this being asked? I guess, where did this come about? It's because of the CARES funding. What happens when we make large capital purchases? They're budgeted for the year. I mean, by the time they hit the budget, they are discussed in March, April, May, and adopted in June. We don't make large purchases throughout the year. They're part of the capital budget. By the time they hit the budget, the vendors have already been vetted. We've already gotten quotes, usually. Or we purchase on state contracts, such as the police vehicles, as we saw in item number 6. So we don't make purchases throughout the year that are outside the normal purchasing practices. They're talked about, they're vetted. When the CARES Act funding came through, that's when we started looking at, this was for purchases that were not already in your budget. So they weren't going to fund things already inside your budget. The CARES money was going to be on top of the budget. So that's where the questions came up, what is our policy? And so this is where we are now. We have some major purchases, those involving the ambulance, cabin chassis for next door, and the laptops. So I removed the telephone system, and I'll get into that and move those over to salaries, but that's going to be part of the next discussion, because we just are not going to have the time, because I don't want to jump ahead. I just want to stay on the purchasing policies for right now. So I want to bring that before the mayor and council. So if anybody has any questions, concerns, comments.
Sure. So I'll just jump in with the question. So Town Administrator Tonelli, when funding is outside of our normal budget, it says purchases made with funds, and I'm sorry, I'm reading from Article 19-4 under exceptions to competitive bidding, number 7. So purchases made with funds which were gifted to the town on the condition that the gifted funds are dispersed in a manner inconsistent with criteria set forth in 19-3 hereof. So things that don't apply under the normal circumstances but are gifted, such as grant funds. I'm just trying to understand.
I know.
Does
I know.
this
Yeah.
apply? And I'm just trying to learn, frankly, and understand. So Sue Ellen or Mr. Tonelli, if you could kind of help us understand.
I would not read gifted as a standard grant. Sometimes individuals will give you a grant, say, to buy a tree or whatever. That's a gift or say, please use this for helping to build a playground or whatever it happens to be. That would be a gift. The grants have ties to them. They always do, and they have a formal agreement. And so that would not apply to a grant that you would receive, as I read it. Most grants, there's like CDBG and others, there are grant agreements, and they say how they expect you to let the contract. Some of them say just use your own process. Some of them set out a process. So you have to always follow whatever that is. So, that's plays into this too.
In this one, we were not awarded, but told we were getting $575,000 in May, and then we had to apply for it. And then they approved it, and then we could amend it at the end of October, and now, based on the call that we had Friday, we can amend any unused, unallocated funds again by Wednesday. So, and the specs have changed somewhat, and they said that, so this one is hasn't been consistent, and at the same time, they're saying, yes, spend the money, you got to spend the money. We're like, wait a minute, so but it's a reimbursable grant, so we only spend what we're approved to spend, and then we get reimbursement. So let's say if that, we don't have to spend it. If we only spend $400,000, that's all we're going to get is reimbursed $400,000. But if we want to use the whole $575,000, then we write a plan which we already have to be reimbursed for that total $575,000. So they're not fronting anything. We have to have a plan. They approve it. We spend it. Show that's been spent. Submit all documentation. Then they reimburse it.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Rao?
Thank you, Mayor James. So I do have two questions as it relates to the reimbursable grant. So when does the approval come per the order from the federal government? Is it once the county approves the purchases, then the approval should come? Because there has not been consistent approvals of the spend plan as it relates to the grant funds. So that's where I have a
Actually, we've had award letters. What happened, so when the grant came from the feds, they gave an award of $15 million to the county. And the county takes that award, and based on population and budgets.
formula.
Yeah,
It's formula grant.
give that out to the municipalities. So we're a subcontractee of the county. So we have an award letter. I can tap into it here in a second. But we have an award letter with a spending plan that says, yes, this was approved. October 22nd, we resubmitted another alternate spending plan to move unspent funds from categories. October 29th, they sent another award letter saying your budget's been approved. So that's what we're going off of right now.
Right. So when does it hit the mayor and council?
I sent that, we discussed that at the last council meeting.
So at the council meeting, it says in the fine print that then the mayor and council approves the funds?
No, they don't get involved with that. They don't get involved in our policies.
Okay, so when we were on the executive call with all of the municipalities, I stated the question, it was very, very clear that there needs to be approval of the mayor and council after the expenditures are approved by the county. So if there are expenditures that have taken place after the county has approved them, the mayor and council did not receive receipt of those expenditures to approve them until the November meeting.
Yes, but that's part of the report that I presented at last meeting 3 weeks ago.
So that's the only spending that took place 3 weeks ago?
No, we talked about this, I think at the June meeting as well, that they...
There wasn't a presentation of expenditures.
It may not have been a presentation, but I did report on it.
Thank you. My next question is that in the procurement policy, this was the one dated, I guess it was 2011? No, 2012, my apologies. 19-4, number 6, purchases based on federal, state, county, or municipal contracts or best pricing that are established by a legal or competitive process. Do we have a competitive process? What does that look like?
Meaning,
What is our competitive process?
we go out and get bids, prices.
Okay, so that's not clarified yet.
Actually, this is in an exception.
Okay,
So they're not talking about your competitive process here. What they're allowing you to do is called, generally in the business, piggybacking on somebody else's competitive process, so that you don't have to take the time and cost of going out to
So
bid.
for example, when we did the sidewalks and we used Prince George's County pricing we grandfathered their pricing in so that we didn't have to go out and bid that. That is an exceptional use of a competitive process.
That is what subparagraph 6 is talking about, yes.
Okay. So could you help me understand in this document where it outlines what our competitive process is? Because to my understanding, it's not clear.
It's laid out in 19-3, competitive bidding. Anything over $10,000 has to be awarded after taking bids to the lowest responsible bidder. Anything over $100,000, you can require that they be sealed bids, which just means they have to be in an envelope sealed up. That's a little unusual, actually, for a town of this size. Mostly, something over, say, like 30,000 or so is by sealed bids, all of them. But, that's what your policy says, so that's what it says. You have to get bids, and that's your bidding process, and the lowest responsible bidder would be awarded the contract by you.
Thank you for that clarity.
Any further questions from the council? Councilmember Lundy?
Yes. So we don't have enough time to go into everything, but as my colleague stated, just as Sue Ellen gave a clarification, it would be nice if it was in writing. And so I do have some documentation that I would like to offer for the record, because I think these things need to be articulated in writing, like the process for change orders, the process for exceptions, the process for competitive proposals, sole source purchases, reoccurring purchases, competitive bidding, we already talked about that, the bid selection, request for qualifications, which is the RFQ process, request for bids, also known as RFP process. And also, we need to ensure about the purchasing authority. We talked about the 10,000, and I think we talked about briefly about purchasing levels in this policy, so that's good. I think there needs to be included a code of conduct, and I can share that what that looks like. Also, criteria for bid selection. I think that's what we're getting to, the criteria for the bid selection. And there's a whole lot of stuff. So I just think that if we had more stuff spelled out, it would, because we're not going to have Sue Ellen around to explain everything and give clarity to people when they try to find out what our policy is when our internet system comes back up and it's put online. So in order to have clarity that people can read it for themselves, I would like to share this model with you.
Okay, appreciate it.
And I think it would be very, very helpful. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Lundy, and I do recall you have many years of experience with procurement.
Yep.
So I appreciate you just tapping into that and really helping us to beef up this area. That's wonderful. Councilmember Blunt, any questions or comments?
Yeah, the only thing in this really, because all of this is means nothing because I don't know anything about procurement, but I know about respecting people's boundaries and informing people on what's going on. If things on this paper don't look right and we question it, it's because it was done without our knowledge. This is why this is taking place now, because I seen a food item on here that I know we have not purchased any food. That I see now you took it off, but that's why this was brought to the table, because if we don't know that the mayor or council, but at this time it was the mayor, bringing something to the money to be spent and we know nothing about, it doesn't make us look good at all. It's like money is being moved and we don't know it's being moved until the day is up for discussion, and I don't think that's fair to the council. That's just my opinion on that, because I seen it and it wasn't right. And then we found out we couldn't even use it anyway, so we would have went into the hole of $7,000 of money that we spent from the CARES Act, would have came back on and hit us.
And I removed the more, I would
Yes.
say, debatable items, I would say, like the food and also the phone system, because we just couldn't do the specs and everything and put out the bid in time. So we took those off, I don't want to say off the table now, but we found out that something that wasn't allowed before in the grants all of a sudden allows, like public safety salaries. Before, in May, when we applied, it was only for hazard pay. And then as people are scrambling, they're saying, we need help, is there any other ideas or ways to use this code, the CARES Act funding? Then they expanded it more to say regular public safety pay. So it's great. So now we have a place to use it, and the unused funds will pretty much cover one payroll.
Which is fine, but again, if the council know these things, we don't know until the last minute, and it's not fair. If the mayor knows and she's not telling us, and you're the administrator, you maybe should ask the mayor, have you spoke with council about this large bill?
I agree.
And
sometimes I'm finding out as quickly as,
that's fine.
and then, I'm like, really? So I feel like they were thankful for the funds, but it reminds me of I think it's like 2011, 2012, the way the ARA funds came down. They came down quick and wanted to help everybody, but the specs weren't solid and ironed out, and they pushed these funds down, and then you had to spend them quickly. They want to shovel-ready projects, and people were scrambling. This reminds me of going through that 8 years ago. It's very reminiscent of that. And it's all the same questions and everything. I feel like I'm going through this all over again. So.
And I'm sorry, I just want to respond if I may. So just to clarify, I understand we have new council members, and I can slow down and share and totally, as I said in the televised council meeting, take responsibility for not sharing that information. But I don't want this left on the table as if something inappropriate occurred. In talking with Mr. Tonelli about the funds, he indicated expenses were coming in under budget, and we were not going to be where we initially, a few months ago, had submitted documentation. So there was conversation, can you reach out to the organization that does the Thanksgiving baskets for the residents? And that's how that conversation started. So it wasn't as though I'm just going off willy-nilly.
We had the conversation.
And I'm sorry, if I may finish.
Sure.
We talked about in our training that our process would be, if we were requesting staff resources or financial resources, we talked to the town administrator first. I don't just go spend town money. That's the role. In this case, it's the acting town administrator. And we have a long existing partnership with an organization. So this wasn't someone new who we've never dealt with. And I understand everyone may not agree, but I'm just putting it on the table for the public to understand. We've had a long-standing positive relationship with this organization. And so we know this is what they do for our residents. I know Councilmember Lundy, actually, I think most of us were even there volunteering last year, so this wasn't something out of the way. Okay, so the three of us from Ward 2 were there. So this wasn't, and in fact, Councilmember Jolene Ivy was there as well. This is, again, going back many years. So again, I understand the communication, and again, as I said 2 weeks ago tonight, do apologize for that. But this is a situation where we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we're looking for any opportunity to help our residents. This didn't come back for me, this was for our community. So I get the concerns with the dollar amount, I truly do, on top of the communication issue. But as I said before, this wasn't just something willy-nilly. And if I can go further, Mr. Tonelli was even saying, if this continues, we may have more left over. Would they even be open to doing a Christmas dinner for our residents? So it wasn't just me going off. I'm talking to our administrator, which is our process. We discussed it in an open meeting on, what was that, Monday, November 16th or whatever it was. So again, I just want that on the record. for the public to understand.
And they may understand, but it's still the fact that you have to allow us, even though, giving it to an organization, I'm all for it. I give donations 24/7 myself, but you still have to let the council know what you are doing. I understand everything you just said, but it doesn't negate the fact that what you did, and it just didn't look right to me, so that's why I brought it up. So again, no harm, no foul, but again, so this won't happen again. We all understand that if you have to come to Mr. Tonelli with a large amount of money like that, we should know. And I don't care if it is the churches that we do business with. We should know so that we know, and we won't be at this point right now.
Yeah, totally understand.
Thank
And
you.
also just one clarification, because this organization, and Councilmember Lundy knows they do everything on the up and up, but they're a nonprofit, Shine CDC. So they're a separate entity. We don't give taxpayer funds to churches. And so it was through Shine CDC. So I just, again, want to clarify, this wasn't grant money coming in and being given to a church. But I totally hear you, Councilmember Blunt.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lundy?
Are you on the same line as this? Because I'm on something I want to address to Ms. Sue Ellen. So I can yield back and let you go, and then I can go.
Councilmember Rout?
Yes, thank you, Mayor James. Just because, first and foremost, just because an organization is a church doesn't mean that it's not a nonprofit. You can be a church and a nonprofit. So just for clarity's sake, because there are many nonprofits that are religious organizations. But I too agree that it takes the power and it takes the role of a council member away if there are conversations that take place between a town administrator and one member of the council. We are a council manager form of government, and to my understanding as a new council member, that there is like a majority, like 3/5, like 3/5 of the council should be at the table making decisions. And so this has been the practice, unfortunately, for the last year that I've been here, and it has to stop. It has to stop because we are wasting man hours. We are wasting taxpayers' dollars having conversations such as this when there are private conversations that are taking place. So it is my hope that moving forward, when there are executive decisions that come down, correspondence is sent out from the acting town administrator or the town administrator so that we can all be on the same page. And so if my colleague did not catch that, we would have been in a pickle. And so that's the purposes of the council, is so that we are protecting the rights and the finances of taxpayer dollars. And so it's very, very important. And I want to go on the record stating that we have to start communicating with all members of the town council. I yield back.
Councilmember Rout, thank you for those comments. Just to point out, so the call was mentioned that we were on Friday with the county, Prince George's County's municipal liaison, Ms. Ola Hill, organized this so that we could, along with other municipalities, get further clarification on allowable expenses and any other things relating to the CARES funding. One of the top things that was listed on here, and I'm looking at the presentation, was food distribution. And I called her after that call ended just to make sure I heard correctly, and she did indicate the nature of this sort of partnership would have been an allowable use of funds. And she said, Keisha, I was on your council meeting, and I was actually disappointed that you guys didn't go ahead because time isn't on our side with at least some of the expenses. I understand other things needed more time, but she said that's the reason why she brought up the question about the food cards for like Giant or Safeway, if that was allowable, because she said, I thought about Bladensburg, and if you all don't have support from your council to do food assistance programs, at least that's another opportunity that maybe your council would be open to for the residents if money is left over, with your expenses. So I do want to offer that up. Again, she said, and I'm looking at it, eligible programs. This is slide number 5, food distribution. So Councilmember Lundy, I think you were.
That's not even what we're saying.
I mean, you're having private conversations, and that's great that you have relationships, but the town council is the town council, and we could have had other ideas of other things. I mean, so just because you had an idea for Shine CBC, that puts us in a box where that's the only opportunity. And it's not your role to make the decision for me. It's not your role, I'm sorry. We are a council, we work together, and we should be making decisions together with the town administrator leading. And so it's not that we did not want to help the community. We volunteer a lot of hours in researching programs. The Capital Area Food Bank program came to this town because 2 of the council members and yourself researched and advocated. So it's not that we don't care about our community. So I'm sorry for Ms. Hill's disappointment. We want it done correctly. We want it done in decency and in order. And it was not decent putting something on a budget and asking for someone to approve it.
Thank you for
yield
that.
back.
Thank you, Councilmember Rout. And again, I totally understand the communication, but I do believe if this was for the benefit of the residents, there was no other alternate offered up at that time. It was just shut down. Absolutely, it still can. And that's the reason, because look, I'm learning. And you all know I make mistakes, but I am learning. And that was the nature of the conversation. If this is not allowable or acceptable, here's another opportunity. Councilmember Lundy.
Sue Ellen. Thank you, Mayor James. I just wanted to find out what is you know what, this fly is really getting on my nerves, okay? I'm about to spray this fly. But anyway, I'm just trying to find out what is the process. I may know it, but I want to articulate it for the record. What is the process for when I work with Mr. Tonelli to make these suggestions of how we can enhance our policy? What is the process for getting this, whatever one we decide to use? I guess it's, which year are we going to be using? The 16 or the?
Yes. 13's got the meat and 16
So we're going to just we got to work together with both of them and make
environmental practices.
Right. So what is the process for us for amending and coming up with an inclusive one policy? Because that's what I would like to have.
Right now, your policy is in your code.
Okay.
You adopted it by ordinance. You can expand on it by doing a separate resolution, which isn't an ordinance, but then it wouldn't all be in one place.
Right.
Some things you don't really want to put into law, like for each contract, how you evaluate that contract may change. What's important in that contract? For example, in construction contracts, if you're having to take fairly complicated plans through the county mandatory referral system, which is what the government has to go through, then you'd want somebody who's done work in Prince George's County before, because it's a pretty unique set of requirements. If you're not doing something like that, that wouldn't be something that you wanted necessarily. So I wouldn't put in how you evaluate the bids in the law. You can put it in your RFP, and we have at different times. All the major contracts that I know of, like the audit and the asphalt contract, et cetera, went out for bid. And so the instructions about that were in there, and I don't know if you've looked at any of the RFPs to see if there's things that you would like to see done differently. But the criteria that you would look at for an audit company would be different than you'd look at, obviously, for an asphalt and concrete
Absolutely.
contract.
So I just want the basic stuff in here. And with some definitions, that's more, give more clarity what the process is, so that the residents don't feel like we are behind closed doors just doing what we want to do. So that's why so what would you recommend would be the best process for coming up with one particular policy? Because you said the resolution process, we would have stuff in 2 different places.
Right. What you could do is just put your basic laws about the amounts, what you have to do at each level, the 10,000, the 100,000, that type of thing, going out to bid, requiring that happen. And then you could do a set of regulations about the rest of what you want to have in in your RFPs. And of course, you'd want to put in there too, and you don't have that in there at the moment, although it is in the state law, that you would advertise on eMaryland Marketplace too, because that
Yeah,
gives
because
you.
I see it here, there's not in here about the set-asides, all that kind of stuff. See, there's certain things that are not in here, and I would
Well,
like to.
if you're not required to do set-asides, if you care to do that, you can. But what does happen sometimes, the county has them, the MBE program, but they have a lot bigger contracts than you do, by and large. And that means in there's a larger group of companies that can comply with that. Most municipalities that I know do not have set-asides.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. I meant the affirmative action.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing in a way. But
But
anyway,
no, an EEO, saying that you're an equal employment opportunity employer is something I put at the bottom of every advertisement I do, and
Right.
these, you should do that. But going to a full bore requirement like the county has, for one thing, smaller companies have more trouble meeting that, and you're going to generally be working with smaller companies, and they're really hard to police too. People have to file forms. You have to make sure somebody has to make sure that they do. It's just hard to police it.
all right, so I will, again, get with Mr. Tonelli and, make my recommendations. We work together, what have you. Or whomever, how we do things and see what the process is, how we
You
can go
can
forward.
do all those, more of the, I don't want to say in the weeds in a derogatory way, it's just, but the more of the in the weeds kind of thing in a resolution as opposed to your ordinance. So it's easier to change it depending on what you're looking at.
All right, thank you so much.
I'll go back and touch on the original grant that came down. I was turned down for quite a few things over and over again sometimes because I thought I could justify it. And I finally asked the county for guidance. What are other municipalities doing? Give me some ideas. Help us out here. And they did. But also talk to larger counties or the places over on Eastern Shore. And I use what they applied for now because they are county government. They're getting funds directly from the federal government. What they got approved for, and I asked for the same thing over on this side, we did not get approved for. Because again, we're a sub-grantee. We're going through the county, and the county says, you probably don't need that, try again. And I asked, okay, help me out. And that's where they came up with the food distribution. That's how that came up. They said, we really like this. How about this? I'm like, great. This is back in May. Are you shut down? People are out of work. That was a great idea. And that was before I think the partnerships would help me out. That's what you said. Thank you. Yeah. So that happened at the same time. So that's how the food distribution got on the budget. I mean, originally I think it was like a $25,000 or $30,000 line item. Then we dropped that down to 15, and now I think we have that down to like 49, 50 now. So that's how that started out, and it's guidance from the county that, ideas how to spend this money. Because at first you're looking at it's a large amount of money coming in. I mean, it is 10% of our total budget almost coming in. That they say. I always get these confused. Can't supplant the budget. It can't already be in there. So it's a 10% on top of it that you have to come up with a spending plan. But at the same time, we're already shut down. So that's it was really a different process, to put it lightly, I guess.
Can I ask you a question? Have we spent any of the money on food at this?
Yeah, we did. We did 2 protein box giveaways, meaning give away meats, cheeses. There's 165 boxes that we gave away, I believe, in April or May. It was for $2,750 for each distribution before the Capital Area Food Bank distribution partnership was done. Yes, thank you. The Share Food Network.
And that's why I have another question, because I know the $5,000 from my budget, Jocelyn wanted to use money for that program. So did you ever use the $5,000 from the senior picnic that Jocelyn asked for to buy the food from the share? Because that should have been spent for the share, not from this grant.
No, because the grant, remember, this grant can't pay for purchases that are supposed to be part of the...
But it was already in, because the senior picnic was to take place And that was already budgeted for, I guess, in your last budget. It was already budgeted for. So how was you able to take that out of?
It didn't happen, and it was part of community events line item. It wasn't like a specific senior picnic. It was part of the mayor and council.
But it was budget.
Community events.
It was budget.
It was budget. Yes, it didn't happen, but.
Those are things I don't understand, because that's when I say money's been moved, because you say if it's been budgeted for, it was budgeted for, but then you say, well, it wasn't budgeted for, so we can use it. But I know that it was budgeted for. So I'm not understanding how are you able to use it and say you used it for something. That means $5,000 didn't move. It's not confusing. It's just that it shouldn't have been used for the CARES Act, because it was used from our budget, because it was budgeted for. Whether you
Okay.
moved it from this
I
part of
didn't
the
move it. I
budget.
just didn't use it. I didn't use it. I didn't use the 5,000 out of the mayor and council. community events
That's
item.
where the.
I mean, I didn't spend it from there. I just didn't.
But it was budgeted. But you just said that you can't use money for the CARES Act that was budgeted. So now you're saying you can use it because you did. Since you
That's
didn't
why I
use
said they changed it, so like with public safety, they said they could, now you could use it for current expenses. So you use it for like public safety salaries. And I would assume the same was gonna go with the food distribution. I would assume, because before they said
You
it
can't
couldn't be
assume that when
for.
you're dealing with money. You cannot assume, because if it's budgeted, if it's budgeted for already,
Mm-hmm.
and they clearly say that you cannot use anything, because I know what Cecile said at our meeting. If something was budgeted, you cannot use the money. But now you're telling me that you can use that money, and that $5,000 that was budgeted is still in the senior picnic pot.
That was last fiscal year, so that, I mean,
But it was budgeted.
okay.
Can you explain, Sue Ellen?
I think so. I'm following what you're saying, and I'm following what you're saying. The rules have not been terribly clear, although they did say that if you'd already budgeted for something and you had a senior picnic budgeted for, you couldn't use CARES Act money for that too. Okay? So that's sitting there, but the CARES Act money wasn't used for a senior picnic because it
No.
never happened, right?
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay, so if you want to feed seniors in another way, you could do that. And what will happen with the monies that was put in the budget for the seniors program, the party or the picnic, will just go back into the general fund if it's not spent for that purpose. VETO's not allowed to go ahead and spend that money for something else.
So we
Because-
voted though.
But we voted.
We voted on taking the money for the senior picnic
Yes.
and purchasing protein packs.
For COVID.
So therefore, there was a vote and it was approved. So it was budgeted
For COVID.
for COVID.
Okay?
So therefore, that $5,000 should also not be on the table. Because it was budgeted for.
The COVID.
Yes, we did it. Yes, it was last fiscal year, but it came from the mayor and council budget.
Okay, and what you could do, I think, based on the way they've been handling things, I think what you could do is then, if you still want to use that $5,000 for that vote, then buy $10,000 worth.
Exactly. Yes, so that we're clear and it's clean, and
Right.
I agree.
Back up, close that.
Instead of just spending $5,000 on it, since you've got the CARE Act monies too, spend $10,000 on it.
Yeah. Buy a protein pack from Share for another $5, and then we're good.
Exactly. There you go.
So I also, no.
I'm sorry, but Mr. Tonelli, I
Is that a-
want to
is
make
that
sure
an
you
issue?
understand
Is that an
and
issue?
make sure,
Yeah.
just from a financial standpoint, that works.
That's what you talking
I mean, that was last fiscal year. That's a vote in last fiscal year.
That's correct.
And the money was spent last fiscal year.
That's correct.
You can call it CARES Act, you can call it from here. The $5,000 was spent last fiscal year.
That's correct.
Okay, so the switchover was, so the funds were budgeted for last fiscal year, and then
I
because
could,
they,
I could amend the request
uh-huh,
and use that, because I'm still going through the audit, we're still going through the field work. I could go ahead and put that $5,000 back on the general expenditures under mayor and council as voted on, and do the other 5,000 reporting and put it in the CARES Act the way it should be.
One more time,
Councilmember Blunt, I just want to make sure it makes sense. So can you say it once more?
Okay. That $4,950, roughly, it's 27, was reported under the CARES Act expenditures June 30th, because it was last fiscal year. I want to say they happened in April-ish,
it has to
end April.
When we gave out
yeah.
first food that was given to the
be
residents through
April,
COVID.
and then we had a break in May.
And we did it for COVID. We did it for COVID.
Okay, that makes sense now, because that was prior to this grant. So that's where, okay, so that's where the vote came from. Okay, thank you. Okay, so $5,000 was spent last fiscal year. I'll put that on last fiscal year, general expenditures. And so we still have the $5,000 over here, the CARES Act funding, yes, and then I'm going to amend that, and then spend the $5,000 over here in this fiscal year, because that grant crosses over both fiscal years.
Right.
Okay, so that same $5,000 is going to be moved over here to do the Christmas, I guess, protein packs. Is that
Okay,
correct?
good, yes. If we all agree on it, yes. We'll be giving food.
I want to have that form into a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, but Councilmember Blunt, I just want to make sure, that's why I was asking him, does that make
It was a
sense?
motion. You're right, it was. It doesn't have to be done again. You're right, okay.
Yeah, we already voted.
Okay.
So Councilmember Blunt, does that make sense? Because I just want to make sure everything is clear.
Yeah, I mean, since everything is on the table, everything is out, and we know, yeah, I feel very good.
I feel better now, too.
I just, because this been weighing on me for a minute.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
glad it's been weighing on me for a minute.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
makes sense
I
now,
just
okay.
wanted to make sure. Councilmember Rout?
Yes, so now it looks like we have $15,000 of
Let's
food
jump to the,
on the table.
yeah.
And so,
Can I switch sides here?
yeah,
So
we
can
got
go to the
like
next
a
one?
little idea.
Okay.
We have the holidays coming up. Gift cards are allowable. We know we give out quick 350 boxes. That's our magic number throughout the, can we purchase $50 gift cards, $350 gift cards for $15,000? And for the holiday season, award that, get signatures from the residents as they drive up. You know how they register. And we check the process. It's a Bladensburg resident, have them sign, and that is what they get if gift cards are allowable. That way, we're using the allocated food funds that we are in. It's roughly, so I'm not a numbers person, but it looks like $14,950. We can find $50 more from somewhere else, add that in, and then our residents can get that money
Since we haven't
for
done that
food,
before.
and it's a food expenditure.
So my only concern is, because many times we've been out here, we know everyone is not a resident. So we would have to assign a staff member to be the keeper of those cards and ensure they only go to residents. I will say, in the course of 1 week, though, we're not going to give out all 300 because the mix
I
varies
agree.
week to week.
I
So do we need to micromanage it down to the level of, well, you got one last week, so you can't get the one this week, or?
Or we can have a link. It can be on our Facebook page.
they
They
can
can fill out a
register.
Google form. They can upload a picture. I mean, seniors, our seasoned
What-
citizens, they know how to take a
Register their
picture and
brand.
But
upload.
what we do
Sorry.
is. you have
I'm
to be
sorry,
on-
Councilmember
I'm
Blunt, can you,
sorry.
hold on 1 second, I'm sorry. Councilmember Rout.
Speaking. Sorry. We can leave it to our town administrator to dictate what that process would be. We paint the skeleton. We can use a Google form. We can have, the chief can point out who on his team is there with the treasurer, and we're out there, and that's the role that person can play to check. It can be very easy. We can do a link, they sign up, we get a list off the Google form, the first 150, we check them off, and it's a process that other municipalities are using. We could look at what Mount Rainier is doing. We can look at other municipalities that are doing gift cards. Hyattsville did gift cards for their program. So we can look at, their methodology, and we can definitely adapt what they're already doing so that it's not a gap in our grant. I yield back.
Can I weigh in? The food drives, I like it because it's a program. There's a program that, is a grab and go. First thing, I'm not a big fan of gift cards. I mean, I've seen, Baltimore City went through a thing a few years ago or something. I don't like it. I just feel like you lose the accountability of it. It just seems like I don't know. Too many things can happen to them, especially in the amounts you're talking about and the quantities you're talking about. I cannot take on another, per se, grant program right now. I mean, talking about City of Mount Rainier, Hyattsville, they may be fully staffed or have, full complement of staff. Right now, I mean, I've got that $20,000 grant program. I still don't have that rolled out yet.
I could take
I
off.
mean, I'm 3 weeks behind on this right now, and for some reason it's not out yet. I'm getting applications, but that's another thing. But I cannot, within 5 weeks, get something up and going in Google Forms and to verify residency and everything else. Realistically, I don't think that is going to happen, because at the same time I'm trying to finish our financial audit and everything else, and we are down 3 major positions I'm trying to backfill. That's why I like the idea of the protein packs or the food drives. I mean, something large, that helps the community drive through. I mean, just like a grab and goes. The gift cards, I just feel like that's and Councilmember, you said you manage that,
Because I do we give over 150 gift cards. I mean, I have that many you can give away just like that. You don't have, if a person has their ID, like she said, you can use, I don't know anything about Google, I promise I don't. But if they have their ID and their address, and they're making sure that you're not giving it to the same address, it can be done. I mean, I'll take off work for that.
She said, I think the PAC team could do something.
ask about
You're right. They also,
And you know what? We have police officers and people that know the community
we
members.
got this. You don't have to worry about this. We got this.
It's a little bit out of my comfort area, as I'm going to say.
I know.
Just gift cards.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm
Just the one concern I think you touched on a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
A gift card, even if it's for Giant or whatever, it's commonly used to give to employees of towns and cities. But handing them out, people can then sell them for a discount and use the money to buy something else.
It's rough. They
Yeah.
sell food, they sell protein
It's rough.
packs. We gave away
Yeah.
salmon 1 week.
They gave. We got gift cards today. The residents got gift cards today with their food. So
So you thought of that? Never,
Yeah.
just
Right.
And even,
Just saying.
So I'm just saying that those
Just
are my
saying.
concerns.
yeah.
because 350 is a big number.
No, I said 50.
Oh, okay,
They said $50.
very good. Okay,
Oh, she
sorry.
said good.
350 cards at $50.
What is that?
It's a liquor store right there.
Why would you pronounce a liquor store?
right.
Let's say know where they are.
Because it's Walmart's. I mean, they go gift cards to Walmart to Shoppers or Giant, and
Okay, so
people sell stuff every day. We can't worry about that. We're giving it to them. If they choose to do wrong by it, unfortunately, they do this every day. If they choose to do wrong, we did what we did, even with the food.
We can also put a hardship clause into, because I see that is the model of other municipalities. For example, the town of Forest Heights or the city of Forest Heights, they have what's going on their hardship clause, where they are expensing gift cards and monetary checks to their businesses. And you just have to affirm that you are affected by COVID and you have a hardship. That's checking a box. That's agreeing to the terms. I think that it's workable. I would be more than happy. I write grants. I'd be more than happy to work with you, Sue Ellen, and our chief of police on this project. This is not something that's unforeseen, or there's ways around it to ensure that we are being fiscally responsible, because there are families that are hurting. They can't buy wipes and diapers for their children. They may need soaps and things of that nature. And, times are tough. And with, we don't know what's going to happen in the National Lame Duck Session. And so the day after Christmas, it's going to get really, really bad if our federal lawmakers don't do something. And so we have to also think of that, how we are meeting the needs of our residents.
Thank you, Councilmember Rout. So just to button this up, Chief, if Courtney could, or Ms. Brooks could work on this, I think, as was stated earlier, don't need to beat a dead horse, but she's very good with Google Docs and just creating a quick thing that can check that a list can be pulled just to verify residency, and also just track who's collected already, so we're not having people who are double dipping. But it doesn't need to be restated. There's definitely challenging times out here, and our families are hurting, and I feel like we have an opportunity to be a help to them during this difficult time. So, Mr. Tinelli, was there anything else for the benefit of the council on the CARES Act funding?
Oh, yeah, quite a bit.
Okay, let's get it.
So is there a guidance or is there a motion to, because I have this under financial business, so if, or we're just going to keep the same amount in there and just use it for, I'm sorry, you said $50 gift cards, 50? Okay.
350 gift cards to
Okay.
get us to that magical number of 15,000.
And that's what the county did say on the call.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So, Mr. Tinelli, again, this is a special council meeting, and just as a point of protocol, we only discuss or vote on financial business in an actual council meeting, not in a work session. So,
I changed the notice to a special council meeting.
Perfect.
Under
Just
financial
wanted to make
business.
sure.
Yeah, that went
Okay.
out at 4 o'clock today when we caught that. Special meeting, work session, council changed. We had advertised as work session, changed to a council meeting, so I put on the agenda financial business, also have it posted outside today as well.
Perfect. So we'll hold off and let you walk through everything so that we can move into the vote.
The big thing's the laptops, and I'll tell you that. Going to our purchasing policies, we went ahead and we went through a round of trying to get laptops for the mayor and council, and I didn't use our IT company. And the laptops that we had, I think you all experienced, had major issues, and our IT company had to rebuild them. And we had funding in the grant, and what happened is laptops were back ordered. They're back ordered this summer due to people teleworking and schools announcing that they're going to do remote learning. And not knowing if we're going to shut down or not, I just went ahead and told our IT company, let's go ahead and get these in, get them ordered. We got to get them programmed and get them assigned out in case we have to shut down again so we can telework. So we're not caught off guard. The issue is it happened outside of our purchasing policies. But, I presented the quote before, and I already had this in motion, unfortunately. So it's on the CARES Act funding, but it went outside the normal purchasing policies, and I'll take blame for that. It was crunch time, it was rush time, and not knowing if we're going to shut down or not, and trying to get our hands on the first laptops that are basically available. And we didn't get we got the best ones we could. And Dell pricing is Dell pricing. But the thing is, when it comes through our vendor, our IT vendor, they know our network structure. our IT configuration, users, computer policies, backups, fire software, our firewall software, and they take care of all that. They take the bloatware off and they make the laptops ready and accessible for our network to launch, to be used by our users. So that was the, we have a quote of $27,385, of which we went ahead and invoiced and paid them $25,757 for it. And we're going to ask for, I hate to say this, but like retroactively, ask to, figured they ask the council for approval. And so I don't know if this is, if this is what's a proper way to do it if allowed.
Well, it's a recognized exception under 19-4A5, so long as you have the approval of 3 council members to do that. So that's what you should do.
Okay.
It is a very unusual time right now. In fact, as some municipalities have gone to the extent that they have given emergency powers to the town manager or town administrator to not require that the bidding requirements be met all the time, because it's just, some of these things you have to get them while you can.
How much is one computer? That's not $1,200 for a computer.
We had 14 spec'd out. Chief, help me out with these. We had 11. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So what happened, certain positions needed different computers. So you needed some computers that had to have the graphics, like the marketing specialist who does all of our flyers and newsletters and things like that. The town clerk computer had to have more RAM, memory capacity, because to push out all of the town legal documents and things like that. So we had them spec'd out. You had like Public Works had to have a different. I couldn't give Public Works a laptop like this to go out on a project. So he had to get a rugged, tough book type. So we had to make these computers geared towards the user, that they would be handling, so that they would last. And also, if you look on the, so if you see, my glasses on. So you see 11 of them were just regular standard laptops. And then you had the rugged spec, which was Purnell. Then you had the rugged spec graphics, which I'm looking at the quotes. Page 2 the quotes. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, you all.
You only have Tesla.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Katrina. I'm like, what she said?
I was trying to make something up, but
I couldn't do it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you had it right there.
It don't have a breakdown. So
Page 2.
yes,
I got it now. Thank you.
Yeah, this is not correct. That's not correct.
So, continuing down the list, you'll see the rugged graphic specs. That one's for me because I do my graphics, social media, and things like that. So I had to have those capabilities to do that. The next one went to the graphic spec there would have been Miss Courtney Brooks for the CAT team. That's 2. That's 1 for marketing specialist. If you look on to the far left, you see quantity. 1 was for marketing specialist, 1 was for the CAT team administrative assistant. And then that's the graphics package. You see 16. That's for the licenses and the Microsoft software. It had to be installed in the computer. And then the last thing is the multi-purpose, multi-function printer, and that was for the lieutenant's office. Because he does the internal affairs and So he can't have his stuff going to different printers.
So it was 33 computers purchased,
No, 16.
60.
It's
Okay.
quantity 11, 1, 1, and 2. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
11.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then right under that, you see 16. That is just the Microsoft software for each
Gotcha.
computer.
That's your Word and Excel and everything else.
So-
That's going on each one.
And the IT guy, is he under contract?
Yeah, it's
With-
the
for-
same one that works here.
Right, I'm just saying, he's the same one who sold it,
Yeah.
and he couldn't give you a better price? I'm
Well,
just
from what he was
maybe
saying, the prices of laptops due to the teleworking,
Yeah.
the prices have been inflated.
And I tried to snag the 3 for you all that that purchase I made back in May or June, I believe, because they're really good pricing. They're the ones that failed. And the specs were not as good as what Chief and IT did. They probably, they are going back and they're assigned out. We just got them back from IT and they're part of the mix because we had to take 3 of these laptops here and assign those out to the mayor and council because they replaced the ones that were not working for you all. So, but we got them back and got them rebuilt. And it's unfortunate. I mean, there's a major error with that.
This is a lot of money for computers and the IT guy, I mean, which is fine, I mean, but the IT guy, he's under contract and then he still gave you regular prices. That's just unheard of, but that's who you all deal with.
So, again, we did ask for the best price that he can give us, but again, due to supply and demand, the
That's
prices
not the
of the
best price.
computers have been increased.
And I used to do a lot of IT purchases, and I do follow the computer pricing because I was shopping for these, and it's in line, and they're actually better machines than I was looking at. But I'm looking at, unfortunately, as an accountant to me, the cheapest product possible, and that always doesn't work, especially for high-use environments and being on the network domain. They actually laughed at the specs I showed them. I was like, I got these for a great deal. They're like, I guess you did, just because I'm looking at more bare bones and, for like more word processing versus, I want to say, power computing that we use here in the office.
And the computers that you got with the census money, it's not tied into this. What
No.
happened to those computers? that
There
you
you
got with
are,
census
sitting right here. This is one that I'm using. I have one in my office that is unassigned. I think that was going to go to,
Me.
you already had one. You had that one came from the census.
This
Yes,
one came from the census, but
Correct.
you purchased me one.
correct. And that's the one that's over the,
overheating.
yeah, that's the one that IT rebuilt
Yes,
with Dell. And
yes.
did
It
it.
kept overheating.
Correct.
The fan
And
cut off.
yeah, and that's one that I'm gonna have a hard time reassigning as staff, I think. When we tell them it's brand new, it's all rebuilt and everything.
You
so
can't, that's not brand new, it's never been rebuilt, you gotta.
It's gonna be used. I mean, we use everything here to the fullest extent forever.
So did we get those same computers from him, or you bought them from
No,
somewhere else?
I bought those 3 from Dell directly back in March.
But he's the one that's rebuilding
Yes,
it.
yeah.
Is it, the price was pretty good?
Oh, price is really good back in March. We weren't shut down. There was no demand. So that same computer I bought for $599 back in March is probably $900 right now. And it's still the same spec, and it's not as good as the ones here for $1,200.
This is one more.
Okay.
Yeah, it works very well. Okay.
You say you take it, so you good?
What's that? Yeah, so I'm using the,
I'm just saying, you say you take the brunt of that one, okay?
yeah.
You admit to it, so I'm good.
Liam, we
Mr.
already know.
Tinelli, I know you walked us through the laptops, but were there any other
changes we should be aware of?
Yeah, the ambulance purchase that we talked about, I brought to you at the November council meeting. The first quote that we received when we started this process, again, just back up a little bit, when I asked the county for ideas, and I asked my county what they spent or what they applied for the CARES Funding Act, and they purchased full ambulances, cab, chassis, ambulances, emergency equipment, because that was part of the CARES Act funding guidelines to mitigate and respond to coronavirus health issues, okay? So, Bladensburg Volunteer Fire Department, number 9, we talked about this at least, but I'd like to refresh everybody. Their ambulance is on the road. I think Sean's was 12 years old, 14 years old, in excess of that, somewhere around there.
Almost 20.
Huh?
It's almost 20 years old.
20 years old. So okay, I'm sorry. So, and they were trying to fundraise to buy a new piece of equipment to replace it, to get this thing off the road. And through partnerships and the county likes seeing, partnerships and everything. So said, we got a great one right next door. We can't fund the whole purchase, because if we fund the whole purchase, it'd be close to probably $350,000. But can we go ahead and give them, the starting blocks, which is the cab and chassis, which is the truck body that the emergency box is going to go on top. Great. We could help out our volunteer fire department, who serves our residents. So it started off with, we put it in the original budget, like $117,000. And then we asked the fire department to start getting quotes. We have a purchase, we need to get quotes for something that big. So they trimmed down the specs. First quote that came in was from Premier Truck Group of Dallas. I'm on this attachment right here. So start from the back and flip forward. So it went from $91,482. I said, okay, that's one quote, can do another. Second quote came back at $87,970. And I reached out to a dealer I know of over on Eastern Shore that I used to deal with years and years ago. And they said they had the state of Delaware contract where they supply the ambulance cab and chassis, but it's a Delaware contract, and they weren't sure in their dealer rules if they could extend that to Maryland. I begged and pleaded, and they said they could. So, and I ran this by the fire department, same exact specs all the way through these quotes, and it came in at $78,665. So I'm going to ask the mayor and council to approve this tonight, but there's also savings here. Okay, so there's savings. So that's one thing. One of the things, like for public outreach, what we talked about at 2561 there, it's up on the screen, everybody, if you don't see it. I'm back to the chart here. One of the things I talked to the county about, and also, Prince George's County, I talked to other counties, was allowed is ways to promote telemeetings so people can access the meetings and you can meet remotely. So I asked our town engineer, media engineer, if he could do that and provide us a quote to put the live stream the meetings on his server. So because we can't do it on YouTube Live, or on Facebook Live, I'm sorry.
YouTube,
yeah. But he can go ahead and it takes some hardware and software and that same amount of money to go ahead and live stream our meetings.
That's good.
Yeah, and it's covered by the grant. And other counties have done that, and it's a nice piece of equipment.
So, Mr. Finelli, will the equipment be owned by us or our contractor?
It's going to be it's going to be placed in here. It's going to be equipment in here. So it's going to be mounted inside on that board and installed on that board. But our contractor is going to be in charge of.
So he will be operating it, but the town
Correct.
will own it.
I believe so, yes. I'll find that out for you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a nod back there? Can you get a thumbs up?
He said, yeah.
Yes, I see a thumbs up, yes. Councilmember Brown, have to answer to your question. Yes, it will be.
Thank you. Finally.
So deep cleaning. Originally, we had like $25,000 in the grant for deep cleaning, thinking that we're going to have a contractor come in every week and do deep cleaning. We had an issue. We had our cleaning contractor come in, and they did do a deep cleaning of the offices, and it has to happen outside of town hours. So what happens is, you have to displace, for the people that are on 24-hour shift, like dispatch and police department, you have to dispatch them while there's a thorough cleaning going on. We saw the equipment they were using, and we went ahead and purchased that same equipment. So our Public Works could do it anytime without calling them in. And it's a bio-friendly electrostatic sprayer that you see on TV. It looks like a fogging machine, and it kills 99.9% of viruses. And we can do it ourselves. So we can do it ourselves. I think they're going to get on a plan to do the vehicles, a schedule to do the vehicles, offices, before and after. And we're utilizing our own staff. It was one piece of hardware. It's like $2,400, but it was allowed under that deep cleaning line item. So that happened, and it's being used now, and it was just done 3 hours before, or 2 hours before you all came in here, because we had a CAT team had an event, and when they got out of here, our cleaning person cleaned up, and then Public Works came in and sprayed and fogged the room, and the bathrooms and the kitchen area, and the surfaces like your switches and your hand bars and the doors and your door handles and everything. So
You have PPE on here, and I wanted to ask a question.
Mhm.
Is this appropriate time?
yes, absolutely.
Okay, yes. So
I can take a break talking, please.
As we spoke in just a conversation, but I wanted to bring it to the mayor and council that I do think that with our mask mandate that we should be promoting the use of masks, recyclable masks that are durable, that are efficient and can do the job. And so I did look around as it relates to masks that we can use, and we were speaking about the mask that I enjoy wearing. I don't have it on tonight, but it's like it covers this part, and it's like a
neck gaiter,
coat,
kind
like
of,
a
yeah.
neck gaiter. It's like a sleeve, and for kids, for seniors, it's easy. You put it over your head, and you don't got to fool around with this. And so I would like to recommend to you all that we look into like custom ink. We can get them like Bladensburg Cares on the side of it, like kind of cute. And CARES, because we do care about our community. That's a great motivation, promotional item to promote the town.
It's CARES Act
In addition,
funding.
it's CARES Act funding. And we can, be able to promote the use of masks here. So I would like so I did get I was playing around with it on the website. For 1,500 pieces, they gave us a 55% volume discount. I can share this with you.
Please.
And it's it's not the cheap kind of gator. There's two kinds. This is the cooling or heat one. So it's durable, it's sturdy. It came out to like $11,000 for 1,500 pieces. So it's like $7 a piece, which is, I purchased mine from Costco, and you get two in a pack for $20. So it's well under, I think it's very competitive. And if you don't want to use that one, we can do some more research and find other, but there are promotional items like that. Maybe we can check across the street to see what they have at the embroidery place. But I was just thinking that's something that we could use to, engage our residents and promote the mask mandate.
Yeah, so just keep in mind the procurement policy, please. If it is over 10,000, we will need those competitive bids.
And I talked to our code enforcement supervisor, Sean, because he has the same one. Because I talked to Councilmember Rod about this on Friday, and he said he gets them. He said he can get them as cheap as $5, but he's buying 2 back at a time. And he said the police officers, I think, are using them just because, as you said, it's easy.
It's easy.
to pull up versus, I'm trying to grab my, and it's upside down or, and again, I started out, I bought the cheap one, and can't breathe through it. I mean, I hate to say, but it fits like, you can barely talk in it just because it fits so tight and everything. So, but the ones you're talking about, that's why I asked you about, I'm like, I like those, so. We can go ahead and research.
Councilmember Mendoza.
If you need bidding, I know when I'm working with the county sometimes, and they have different companies, so I could probably get you like 3 or 4 companies that you
Beautiful.
send the
Beautiful.
stuff for.
I
Okay.
can just make sure it's $9.99 and it's under 10.
Yeah.
You can authorize the purchase. I mean, that was just just
No, I think it's great.
a quote. But this one, so with this particular vendor, it's a commercial vendor. They'll actually embroider it or
Is it
they'll.
custom made?
It's custom made,
Yeah.
yeah. So they'll
I
put
thought
the
search thing
little,
by then,
yeah, they'll do a heat press of what we want on the side, and it's included. It's no, setup cost and.
Pay me, I eat it.
Yeah.
Like this kid.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, they used to do my campaign shirts, so.
Perfect.
Yeah, because we have right now $7,000 unexpended in that account. Now, again, we're underspent. I mean, I just put up on screen here, we're underspent in like the ambulance category. So we go ahead and move those funds. And really anything else we can't find a home for, it can go back into public safety regular salaries. But I do want to hear from the mayor and council, so it's, again, I'm coming at with, unfortunately, I understand everybody's concerns. I do, I get that, and then it's the same time, it's trying to get approval from the county. What can we use this for? Not getting clear guidance at times and like throwing stuff out there and they say, yes, yes, no, 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 try again, and they say, yes, no, try again. I'm like, come on, help me out here. Throw me a bone, what can we do? Give me some ideas, so.
Like Vito said, he can get it bidded probably less than Custom Ink and
Mendoza.
I'm sorry, Mendoza. What did I say?
It's all good.
Mendoza. I'm looking at you, so you can go on what he.
And I'd rather use a local company where you can see the product and, so it's, yeah. And that's something, getting back to that with the purchasing policies, I'd like to see something in there. I don't want to lose this thought about local, giving local, help me
Exactly,
out.
right.
So,
Local businesses.
That's what I was.
Well, I think it's already in the policy.
okay, it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
it does give
So we gotta
I'd rather
put it
use,
together.
I'd rather use a county company any day.
Especially Bladensburg, if
Yeah.
there's something in
Yeah.
Bladensburg.
Anything else, Mr. Tonelli?
No. Just to walk you through, if you can see on the screen behind me, there is a graph that I gave you all. Looks like this. Okay. The county told us on November 13th, I believe, that these grant funds we had until December 30th to spend. Great. Okay, so we had time. November 30th, we were told you have to, is it November 13th, we're told by November 20th, you have to show that you spent 60% of the funding. By November 30th, you have to show you spent 80% of the funding. So all of a sudden, everybody's scrambling because you thought you had another 7 weeks or 6 weeks to spend the money and go through, all of your processes and everything. All of a sudden they're saying, if you don't spend 60% in a week and 80% by the end of November, we're going to take your remaining funds and reallocate them.
Yeah, the obligation process.
Yeah,
It's
so
typical
it
in
came
government.
quicker, that wasn't in any previous communication. And it's, so again, it's a great program, but I feel like, it's not, they kept moving the goalposts a little bit here and there, so just trying to catch up and everything.
It's
So been a
typical
challenge.
of federal government. It's called hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
When they're in a rush, we need to be in a rush to get documentation. And when we're in a rush, they are not. That's just how it works. So
It's frustrating,
yeah.
is what it is.
Definitely understand.
Yeah. But, so on November 20th, which is Friday, applied for 70% of the grant funding, and most of this was in the hazard pay and reg pay for our police department, excluding code enforcement. That's one of the things I asked for 4 times. I got denied for code enforcement. And Councilmember Rout even made a very good point to them on Friday, and they still didn't concede. I mean, code enforcement is a unit of public safety. Councilmember Rout did a great job explaining this, just for people at home. Code enforcement is not just going out and saying, your grass is too tall. They are instrumental in everything that we do. I mean, with public safety and public works, they coordinate everything, between public works, the chief, traffic control, they assist and take the lead on the food distributions, everything COVID related. They're our right hand. I tried to explain that to the county over and over again. They said, nope. I'm like, I talked to other counties, and they did allow code enforcement. So again, we're a sub-grantee, so we have to get approval from Prince George's County. We're not going directly to the feds. So it's how they interpret it versus, so. But, yeah, they said.
Yeah, my understanding from the call on Friday was code enforcement still was not allowed. Hold on, let me go back
I think they had to go check, right? I think they want to clarify or something.
Yeah, they were leaning on the side.
Yes. Especially after Councilmember Rout kind of like gave them a
explained it. And it was, we had like yes in the comments from other municipalities. We're not in this alone.
Yeah.
So I definitely think giving the young woman, starts with Amber.
Amber Hendricks, yes.
A call just so that we can be definitive. But I was under the impression, because I did say, based off of our makeup of our organization.
Yeah, you said your organizational chart and everything. I was trying to pull it up at the same time. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Chart outlines.
Right. Councilmember Rout, thank you for bringing that up, because I did know. So COVID overtime / hazard pay can be charged to the grant for code enforcement, but not regular time. That was the clarification.
Like, that's what I'm like, wait a minute.
I thought they was, Okay. So
They paid.
So
And then,
we've been reimbursed for the public safety
And that's
salaries.
what we
If we call it, I took that time and asked for reg time from police officers instead. So we did get that funding. I really wanted that from last fiscal year. Unfortunately, that's when I got turned down before you took the stand for us. But okay. So November 20th, we got to 70% threshold. If we approve the laptops tonight and the ambulance purchase for the 3 quotes I have before you, some of the smaller amounts that have already been, like the sanitizing equipment and sprayer, the PPE supplies, we've already purchased that. Those are smaller ones under the $10,000. The live stream meetings, I just got the quote on Friday. I do want to go ahead with that, get that equipment in. So if we approve the main ones I need approval on really are the laptops and the ambulance quote, which will get us to 90% expended by November 30th. Now, how are we going to do that? I don't want to lose the fund. I don't want to lose the ability to use the funding. So the issue is with the ambulance, it's got to be ordered. So it's not something that, if you all approve today, it's going to be dropped here in Bladensburg tomorrow.
At least the ball be rolling.
So it's going to have to be paid before we receive the equipment. And I ran this through council, and Sue Ellen can help me out with this one.
Well, what you have to do is encumber the funds, right?
They want actual receipts and check cleared as full
It's
documentation.
a specialty item. That's not unusual.
Okay. And it might be 2021 before the ambulance comes in. So
As long as we got a receipt and we.
Exactly.
I know it's just again, this is outside our normal.
As long as we got a receipt.
Now
But the county, I will say, Mr. Tonelli, is very strict when it comes to the approval, and that's why you've been going back and forth with them. So if they've already said, as long as you have paid for it, you can show evidence of the check clearing, all those details. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I would think we'd be comfortable with that because it's documented.
Yeah, again, it's outside our normal way we've done things. Now, with the police cars, we order them, we know they're coming within like that week or a couple weeks, we expect them, we'll go ahead and generate the check because I might not be here if they come like first thing in the morning or something. I mean, but we go ahead and give that out because we know it's coming and we already have usually a VIN number assigned already. So we know the vehicles are coming. This is order it, it's going to be built to these specs, and then it's going to come in, 2-3 months from now. So,
Okay.
but we're going to pay for it up front. We're going to have a full
Yeah.
sales order and invoice. Again, just
So, Mr. Tonelli, just to clarify, the motion from the council that you're asking for is approval of the quote for the ambulance in the amount of $78,665, as well as approval of the purchase for laptops in the amount of $27,385.
correct,
Okay.
correct.
And just to be
The small
sure,
items are, I
so,
won't say consumables, but
Yeah.
they are,
and just to be clear, so Mrs. Ferguson, the smaller dollar items, because they're under the 10K threshold, we don't need to fold into the motion for approval tonight.
Not unless there's something else that's required. I know there was a conversation earlier about having everything, quote, approved. As long as you're here, you might as well.
That's
Go
what I'm
ahead and
thinking,
do
just
the
so
whole
it's
thing.
on the record and listed out.
Yeah, because I did ask that of the county on Friday, and they said that it has to be approved by the council. So that is why
Okay, I
I
got it.
recommend that it's,
Right.
Put
And he
it
also
to
said a resolution too.
yes, they also said a
You have to
resolution.
have a resolution.
Yes.
And I think that was in reference to however your county charter was. So not every municipality would require a resolution.
Well, a resolution is just a written down motion.
Okay.
There's nothing really all that formal about that. I don't, what I've seen so far in other jurisdictions is that the council has generally approved the application that was going in and the focus for what the monies were going to be spent on, but they already knew what the grant was. And so having to specifically say, okay, then this much on the computers hasn't really been something that they've been doing. It's just that generally there's been an approval of the types of expenditures that could be made up to certain amounts. So as long as you're here and you're doing it anyway, it doesn't hurt to go ahead and approve all of it.
The ones that stick out are the laptops, the ambulance, and I would like, if it were me, strict guidance from mayor and council, the laptops, the ambulance, and the food benefit.
Okay.
And the PPE and the, I don't want to say smaller items, but your normal purchases or the smaller amounts, because these could differ, by $100 or something. I don't want to be tied to the smaller ones getting into, but the major ones, the ones over, I want to say the ones over, say, $5,000, which would be the laptops and the ambulance and the food benefit.
To shorten things up, you've written this out for everyone, except for the food benefit. You could add that on. You could just incorporate.
Yeah, I could change this real
And that's
quick.
what I'm thinking is cleanest, because that way, for the record, it shows there's one thing with everything that was approved by the council as of today's date.
And then this will be for the yellow column.
Correct.
And the green
Plus
column.
the 15,
Then the PPEs will be over 5,000.
Yes, we
Probably
might as
not
well
that.
put
They're in there
that
too?
Yeah, that's what I said, we might well put that in
It's been
there
a
too.
lot done today. Look at communication. Look at that.
Give me 1 second, please. I was updating this real quick behind me. Okay. I have this on screen, what we're going to apply for. This is the, put on here, food, gift cards.
It's 25 here, shouldn't it be 27?
I just upgraded that.
You did? Okay.
Yes, yep. Okay, so what I want to apply for to the county, if you can see it on the screen, and hopefully people at home can see it. Sure. I know, I'm sorry. I see it one way here. I don't know how it goes up there. It's behind me. So
No, you don't see us on YouTube.
you're going to purchase another 3,000. I'm sorry.
9K for the PPE.
This is what we've already spent. I'm sorry, at 3,000. So we're gonna have $7,000 in that blue column left over for PPE. Okay, that we talked about. Okay. $10,000 for the food gift cards. We can go ahead and do those now.
Wait. So we're back on the food thing. The $49.50.
Thank you. You're right.
We were not in agreement. Yes, so.
I'm still going to use that. Yeah, okay. I had to reclass that, and I'm going to purchase that again, yes, yeah. I'm going to have to go back to last fiscal year and make that adjustment for the auditors, okay. Okay, I got that on my notes, yeah. And I apologize about that one. That was a lot to digest and everything, so it's. We're gonna have $1,600 left in deep cleaning, which I probably will move to public safety salaries, unless y'all want to move it somewhere else. If you want to move this, this amount back up to
So we
the,
have that, Councilmember Lundy, if
Yes.
you could hold up that sprayer that we were using.
Oh, yes.
So this is made of like a hydrogen peroxide. You can look at the ingredients. So I don't know if that was donated to us, and it's healthy for the environment. And it's better than that Clorox white stuff. So I don't know if you want to take a look at that.
yeah, I did put $500 I held back for the PPE for more cleaning
Okay.
products, yeah.
Okay.
Because I agree, that Clorox stuff, if you just spray it here, you smell throughout the entire room.
Yeah, so
I
that
can't
is
stand using that stuff.
Environmental
Yeah.
friendly, and it's
And when all this first happened, well, you all know, we couldn't find cleaning supplies, so Chief just sent pretty much everybody out. So get what you can, So it was, now we know about it, and people are getting better with that. I can move this up into the, if I need this, the $1,600 up to the,
PPE?
thank you.
Because I like the hard idea about the mask. I'm already thinking about it.
That's what I could, yeah,
we got Chris.
yes.
This is a great meeting, everyone.
Linger on side and then carry something else.
Yes, that is so nice.
I can use the leftover
Does
funds.
anybody know how to do graphics? Because they usually have short
Chief
graphics.
See, that would be Corliss and Diamond.
Yeah, and that's why they get the higher upgraded RAM laptops in order to do the
Here we
graphics,
go.
yeah.
Look at that.
But yeah, I can go ahead, if you all give me that leeway to work with these amounts here to get to what you all, yeah,
The
yeah.
process,
okay.
that we gave you the framework.
We're gonna have a little bit left over with information technology. I do need to talk to IT because some of the issues we have, we do need 2 gigabit. What we found out through the telephone process, getting the quotes here, our switches, which is everything, the,
Electric switch box.
yeah, all the computers plug into,
The switches.
there are still 10100, and we need gigabit switches. They're 2 48-port switches in hardware terms. They're about $1,000 each. And I'm surprised that we have 10100 switches. But the switches I put on my side are gigabit, but they don't go as fast as the slowest piece of equipment. It's also going to help our speed here and everything. We didn't know that until we went through the whole telephone process because they said you have to have the IT hardware to support this. So that was part of the quote. So now I want to take that off of their quote, and so now we took that whole telephone process out, but we know we need this equipment over here. So I do want to hold $2,000 back to upgrade those switches over here in our server room over here in the police department. There will be leftover funds there, which we could apply to the PPE or back to public safety salaries.
Did we already purchase the blackboard? Was
No.
that already approved?
No, I did not get a third quote on that.
Because we had 2 quotes, I think, over the summer. It was Blackbaud, something else. I think the county moved to a different system, so Cecile, Ms. Cunningham was able to get that one, but not a third one.
And the one I presented to mayor and council, my argument was Prince George's County Schools is using this. And then that's September 30th, they said, we're no longer using this. There's a new platform, like, crud. There goes my whole argument.
3 quotes or no?
No, we only had 2 quotes. Because I wasn't sure if they could do the multi-language that you asked for.
And they can.
Yeah, so I did not go back and get a third quote. I pulled that off. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen, because what we're paying for over here, we have extra funds coming in. I really want to see how the dust settles, and then we can do a budget amendment afterwards to see how we're doing midway through the fiscal year. Go back and look at doing the telephone purchase, and go back and look at, because we have this as part of our normal budget, the communication, under advertising or under town meetings, actually, we could put that under. So,
But it's not there presently.
no.
So why couldn't we get another quote? I can help, I can assist with that. I thought we did have 3.
No, we didn't.
Okay.
No.
Chief Collington?
So, so I did reach out to a company, Hodgesville City uses. So the company is called Ring Central. It's a Polycom phone system. It's a voice over internet, like IP. So it really is going to do everything that we wanted to do. I wanted to get them here today to walk through and give us a quote. So they'll probably be here tomorrow. That's stretching it. If not, then they'll be here next week. And then the second part was the part that we would need for the recording system, for the 911 system. So that is Sergeant Hartnett, and he said he would definitely be here tomorrow to bring us up to speed on that, and then I'll have that quote as well. So that would be the third quote. So.
Okay, thank you, Chief. That's not in particular what I was talking about. I think
talking about
that's
the
another
reverse 911
item.
system, yes.
So there is an emergency management alert system that'll allow us to send out texts.
Yeah, the robocall.
Yeah, robocalls. And that's pretty easy to get a quote for. So I would like us to really consider that. And because that's not something that we budgeted for, it was like less than $5,000. So that can definitely assist us, especially in a state of emergency with snow, trees down. It'll just send out a blast, and it sends it multilingual, French, Spanish, English, and so I thought we were done with that. But that's that's like a low barrier, low hanging.
Yeah, Mr. Tonelli, I know Ms. Cunningham was working on it. I think it just got lost in the transition, so, but it is a bit different than the regular phone system
Yeah.
that we were discussing.
And I did talk to the 2 vendors. I just, honestly, with limited staffing, I just have not had time to go back with that at all. And was getting now near the end, and not saying that it couldn't happen, but I'm trying to pick up things where we can go ahead, expend this out, and get this grant over with. And, because it's a lot. It's a lot to manage, and I'm trying to do this, and it's, it's a great program. I just want to make sure that I'm going to have the time to do it as well.
Great, thank you for that. So can you just finish walking us through so we just make sure we have everything listed in that yellow column there so we can go ahead for the vote?
Well, the yellow column gets us to 92% of the grant expended, so there's going to be 8% left over. So we're talking about 2 things. We're talking about approving the ambulance and laptops, okay, to have that reported, to get us to 92% of the grant spent by December 1st. and the final 8% over here in the blue column, that's what we're talking about. What are we going to do with that? And it sounds like I had the guidance necessary to use it for the food gift cards, use it for the PPE. I like to purchase the 2 switches, and any remaining funds.
And don't forget, you had a bit for cleaning supplies as well.
Yeah, that's already been
Leftover.
expended. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That was an electrostatic sprayer, and also for the one deep cleaning we had our cleaning company do when we had an instance.
I'm sorry, I thought you said 500. You would keep over
Oh
there
yeah,
for
I'm
more.
sorry. Yes, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I held back $500 for the environmentally friendly cleaning supplies. So that final 8%, I have guidance on that, and anything that we can't get, that we don't think we're going to be, I think we have like December 20th deadline, we can use to offset public safety salaries. So either way, I will get these funds expended for benefit of the town.
Great, and I
Trying to form
like
this into
Sue
a motion,
Ellen's.
it's.
Yeah. But I like Sue Ellen's guidance because we're all here. Everything's listed out. It's just better to vote on everything than just saying these 2 or 3 big ticket items. So with that in mind, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the coronavirus spending plan as presented by Acting Town Administrator Mr. Tonelli.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Mendoza. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Blunt. Any further discussion?
For clarity, it's the yellow column.
The yellow column is what is going to be expended by November 30th,
Right.
okay? So what's going to be left over is in this blue column behind me. You have to go on screen and look if you all can see it.
And that's the 8% Acting Town Administrator Tonelli was just referring
Yeah.
to. So that's the 500 he would leave for cleaning supplies. The 10K, again, is being shifted
It's-
for,
Okay, so here, let me take a moment.
can you expand it?
Here we go.
Just
Here.
because the motion that's on the floor is just saying that we're approving it all. And I mean, we're not approving it all. We're approving it up to the line, the column that he will be submitting by November 30th.
Correct, 92%, so there was 8% left over here that we
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah.
That we said, we have PPE, deep cleaning, we're not going to use, we can use that as part of the PPE.
I understand.
Yeah.
It's not that column, but that's not the motion on the floor.
So let me just make sure, and I appreciate you saying that, because my understanding, and I may not have understood you fully, Mr. Tonelli, was that you were asking for approval of the spending plan. So that includes the yellow column.
Correct.
But you also mentioned the 8%.
Yeah.
And we walked through the details of the 8% to say, we're approving the yellow column, but we have until December 31st for the remaining funds that have.
Which I have guidance on,
Right,
yeah.
which you
yeah.
have guidance on. So I just want to make, does that make sense?
Women said that since we're here, let's just approve the whole thing.
Right.
That way we don't have to deal with it.
I
Right,
don't have the pricing in front of me to prove that, to get you down to that exact dollar amount of that final 8%. I want to keep it more generalized to say we'll use that amount for PPE,
approved expenses or approved line items.
expenses, yes. Yeah. And anything not expended will go towards public safety salaries.
No, I'm not sure with that.
Because,
So if we're
so
not-
a good
let's-
example is like the communications equipment for the phone system. There's so much debate over that. That's $24,000 that I just don't think we're going to do, as we talked about last council meeting, to do like full bid specs, technical specs, get 3 quotes, because then I have to go back to the other 2 vendors and ask them to do a formalized quote based on this. So I just want to take that off the table. Now, under this grant, until we can have more time to visit this and everything. So that's $24,000 that's sitting over here now, part of that 8%. Anything unexpended, I'm going to put the public safety salaries that we're already incurring in the budget. So instead of trying to find new things, we already have an expense going on that the county has approved, public safety hours. So that's where I was going with it. When I came in here tonight, I was going to pretty much just say anything unexpended for the public safety salaries to close this grant out. That's where I was going to tonight, but that's my ideas before opening up the mayor and council. So.
Point of clarification, Mary Kay?
Yes, Councilmember Lundy?
I just want to make sure, Vito, I'm sure you have, I just want to make sure we have all these dates correct, because I keep hearing other dates. I have in my notes, December 1st is a critical date for the 80%. I know you're doing the 30th for you. And then I have December 15th is the final date to spend the money. That's what I have in my notes. I want to make sure we get the dates right.
Yeah. And you are correct.
And Ola Hill sent me an email.
Yeah,
because I
it's the
asked
final
her.
date, just on December 30th money by December 15th, which is like,
Right.
That's why I want to
Thank
move
you.
all the public safety salaries so we have time. It's trying to get this done in 3 weeks of the holiday. I just wanted to go ahead and close the grant out for everything that's towards public safety salaries.
And then all final reimbursement requests must be submitted by December 21st.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Make
you.
sure we have those
Thank you
dates.
for clarifying that
Yep,
and
15.
for reminding me, because now it's even more of a,
Yeah,
Thought we had more
I
time
printed
than
it
we
off.
really did.
hey,
I printed it off.
And Mr. Tonelli, just in light of that, so our council meeting for December is Monday, December 14th. So any final things that need to be done, I know that'll be crunch time, but that is just a few more days, a week out from that, deadline of the 21st. And not that we want to be in that position, but I'm just saying, if we're saying we're voting for the items in the yellow column here, the 90%,
I can get those done now in the yellow column. We can
Okay.
go ahead and get those done now. The part that I wanted, that final 8%, is what I wanted just to go ahead and push the public safety salaries, because we're incurring that. And, limited staffing. I mean, I'm doing 3 director jobs right now with the, acting town administrator, treasurer, and the town clerk is gone, and trying to manage this. There's also workloads there, but trying to get this, because we had a lot of discussion about it, and I think it's created some contentious points here just because trying to get this all done. I'd rather just go ahead and close it out. That was how I came out of this. So, but it's a mayor and council decision, so it's,
And Councilmember Rao?
Yes, I move to amend the motion to reflect approval of the Town of Bladensburg coronavirus spend plan as stated in the yellow column.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second it.
And just opening it up for discussion, and that is inclusive of tonight's items. I just wanted to
That
be clear.
is, yes,
Thank you.
at the
Any other
90%.
questions or comments before we take the vote? All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much.
is that amended or is that upon motion?
No, I think the motion's fine. I think everyone understands
Okay, good,
what it
good,
is.
good, that's good.
And then you just have to make provision for, you suggested just moving it into public safety salaries, so you don't have to worry about spending everything.
That was where I came
15th.
in with, yes, but that,
Right.
I don't think mayor and council is, said they want to do.
Right, so that, you all are gonna have to, you'll end up keeping your eye on that because you have 3 weeks to spend it.
The 15th, yeah, December.
Yeah.
We posted them where we were.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, I agree, I agree.
We
I
worked
agree.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's actually a special council meeting, so we can do
So
financial.
we can't do the
business.
financial, right.
Right. So,
And then, of course, with the remaining 8%, if there are any things you need us to review in preparation for the December
I
work
think I have a very
session.
good idea.
Okay.
We're going to try,
Perfect.
prioritize it first, the PPE, the 2 pieces of equipment that we say we need for IT. I'll see if I can get the, if I really do have, if I can get the time to do the reverse 911 system. And anything else, I'm going to apply for public safety salaries. So,
Thank you, Mr. Tonelli, and appreciate your patience as we
I
navigated
appreciate
through.
talking through this, because again, it's, as Councilmember Blount said, it's what we're doing here, trying to get the information out to you all. It's, the county's coming down. It's, so it's,
Exactly.
we're thankful for
That's teamwork.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But let me back up. We're thankful for the program, for the CARES Act funding, because it does
Yes.
help our residents. It does help
Yes.
the town. So I don't want people to think I'm complaining about it. We're just process oriented. So it's just getting through the processes and everything. So it's.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. We did make an amendment at the outset of the meeting on the agenda to go into closed session. The items noted were a contractual agreement as well as personnel matter. So if there's nothing else for the open meeting, I'd like to ask for a motion to recess our open meeting and for 5 minutes for a bathroom break, and then go into a closed session. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Moved by Councilmember Rao, seconded by Councilmember Mendoza. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone at home for tuning in, and please bear with us.